my name is Emily. I study gender equality, and today I'm going to give you an introduction to 5 important female politicians. Thanks for coming to the session, and I hope you learned something. You don't need anything with you for this video, but feel free to pause at any time or take notes if you want to. It took a long time for women to be granted suffrage, meaning the right to vote, and an even longer time for women to be elected into office. For almost 60 years in the 1700s, Sweden allowed women to vote, but their vote didn't count as much as a man's did. New Zealand was the first country to allow women to vote in 1893, but women still couldn't run for office. In 1902, Australia was the first modern country to allow women to do both. Finland was the second, and the first female members of parliament in the world were elected in Finland in 1907. The latest country to allow women to vote and run for office was Saudi Arabia in 2015. Women are still underrepresented in politics. Only 23.7% of the US Congress and only 34% of the UK Parliament is female. But that doesn't mean that women haven't made their mark. Some of the world's most successful leaders have been and still are women. To give just a brief glimpse into how women have changed the course of history through their leadership, here are 5 trailblazing female politicians who have come before us. The first is Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm was an iconic American politician. She was the first African American woman elected to Congress in 1968. She was born in 1924 in New York City as a first-generation American. Before she ran for Congress, she was a teacher in New York City. As a member of the Democratic Party, she was elected as the representative for New York's 12th Congressional District under the slogan, "Unbought and Unbossed." She only hired women on her staff when she got to Congress. She was passionate about education, healthcare, and feeding the poor. In 1972, she announced she was running for president, and although she lost, she was the first African American person ever to run for president for a major party. She retired from Congress in 1983, and in 1993, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. She died in 2005 at the age of 80, and she's celebrated for breaking through both race and gender barriers in American politics. The second woman on this list is Benazir Bhutto. Benazir Bhutto was the Prime Minister of Pakistan twice, first from 1988 to 1990, and then again from 1993 to 1996. Pakistan was established in 1947, so she was only the 11th prime minister, and she was the first woman. She was born in 1953 and went to university in both England and America at Oxford and Harvard. Her father became prime minister in 1973, so she came from a political family. She was part of the Pakistan People's Party, and she was elected when she was only 35 years old, which made her the youngest prime minister in the world. She struggled to get rid of corruption in her government, but she is known for working to modernize Pakistan, and she built schools and installed electricity throughout the country as part of those efforts. She died in 2007 at the age of 54. The third woman on this list is Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi is a politician from Myanmar. When she was born in 1945, her country was still called Burma and was still controlled by Britain. But her father negotiated the country's independence in 1947, and the name was changed in 1989. She moved to India in 1960, and after going to university in Delhi and Oxford, she worked for the United Nations for 3 years. She moved back to Burma in 1988 when the military leader resigned and people were protesting for a democratic government. Suu Kyi founded the National League for Democracy that same year, but was put under house arrest for promoting democracy, which meant she couldn't leave her property. She was under house arrest for a total of 15 years between 1989 and 2010. When she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1990 for her nonviolent struggle for democracy, her 2 sons had to go and accept it for her. Since 2016, she has served as the State Counselor for Myanmar, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of the President's Office, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Electricity and Energy, a member of the House of Representatives, and the General Secretary of the National League for Democracy, but not all at the same time. She is currently 75 years old, and although she is not allowed to be president because she has children who are foreign nationals, she is seen as the leader of Myanmar. Fourth, we have Angela Merkel. Angela Merkel has served as the Chancellor of Germany since 2005. She was born in Hamburg in 1954 when the city was still a part of West Germany after World War II. The Berlin Wall separating East and West Germany fell in 1989, and that's when she got involved in politics. She studied science in university and got a PhD in quantum chemistry in 1986. She was first elected to the German Bundestag, their parliament, in 1990. After serving as the Minister of Women and Youth and the Minister for the Environment, she became the first female leader of the Christian Democratic Union Party in 2000 and remained the leader for 18 years. She was the first woman to be elected chancellor, and her party has won a number of elections in a landslide with her as their leader. In 2014, she became the longest-serving head of government in the EU. She's the only woman member of the G7, which is a group of 7 leaders of the most advanced economies in the world. Currently, the members are Germany, France, Canada, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, and Merkel is their senior leader. Merkel resigned as the Christian Democratic Union Party leader in 2018 and has said that she will not run for chancellor again in 2021. But when that moment comes, she will still leave behind quite a legacy for women leaders. Finally, we have Jacinda Ardern. Jacinda Ardern is the current Prime Minister of New Zealand. She was born in 1980 and went to university in New Zealand. She volunteered at a soup kitchen in New York City and worked as a policy advisor to the British Prime Minister in London before moving back to New Zealand to run for Parliament. When she was first elected in 2008, she was the youngest sitting member of Parliament for 2 years. As the leader of the Labour Party, she was elected Prime Minister in 2017 and became the youngest woman head of state in the world. She is the 3rd female Prime Minister of New Zealand and the youngest person to lead the government since 1856. She had her first child during office in 2018, and she was only the 2nd elected head of government to give birth while in office. The first was actually Benazir Bhutto, the 2nd name on this list. Ardern has been globally praised for how she has handled 2 crises in particular, the mass shooting of a mosque in 2019 and the coronavirus outbreak in 2020. She responded to both with quick and strict laws, and New Zealand has one of the lowest COVID infection rates in the world as a result. At only 40 years old, we can expect to see much more from her in what will hopefully be a long career in politics. These are just 5 of the many incredible women who have made their mark in politics. Just like any male politician, these women are not perfect and have faced a number of controversies and even scandals in office. But they have broken through major barriers in each of their countries and opened the door to better gender representation in politics. I'd love to hear from you. Which women in politics do you find inspirational? There are 75 countries, who have had a female leader. So if you have the time, do a little research on one of these women and share a fact about her in the comments. I hope you enjoyed today's session and the rest of the festival. Thanks for watching. Bye.